Well, good morning. Nice to have you all with us. One of the most important days of the year. We get to approve our budget. Well, other than Brian Fry's birthday, we get to approve our budget today. So, is that enough love for you?
Always, thank you.
We will begin our meeting with an invocation from Charlie Davidson, and following that, a Pledge of Allegiance. Charlie, it's an honor to have you 2 weeks in a row. We could just make this permanent, maybe.
Glad to be here. Let's do it. Let's bow our heads as we pray this morning. God, I thank you so much for this beautiful day that we have and this time that we have to come together. And Lord, I pray that you continue to give guidance to the city council, to the mayor, to the city manager, the department directors, Lord, as we work in collaboration with our community to provide amenities and protection and safety and recreation. Lord, help us to work together. Help us to live according to your examples, to live according to your ways. And I pray that we continue to collaborate and look to your guidance and your direction. Lord, I pray that you continue to impart wisdom and guidance on these department directors, on this council, on this mayor, that you can continue to give them direction to lead this city in a positive direction, to lead this city to become even greater than it is already. Lord, we pray for this night that we come and we celebrate the neighborhood night out. Lord, I pray that as a community, as city leaders, as city workers, we can all come together and collaborate and learn more about each other as we continue to strive to make this such a great city. Lord, we just lift all this up to you. We lift this meeting up to you and pray that you be present here as we seek the business of this city. Pray that we would, again, make our business, your business, our business. Just pray and ask all this. We lift this up to you. In Jesus' precious and holy name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Charlie, thank you. Great job again. We have approval of the minutes of August 6, 2019. Any changes or corrections? Seeing none, I move that we approve the meeting minutes of August 6, 2019.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item. Oh, we have a proclamation, don't we?
Yes.
I'm getting too busy. So we have a proclamation this morning for Brandy Corley. Is Brandy with us this morning? Well, come on up. You can. Brandy was also busy, I'm guessing. Well, I'm going to read this proclamation, then I'm going to let you share some words, if that's all right.
That sounds great.
So, proclamation for Save the Bees Day. Proclamation from the city of Wichita, founded in 1870. Whereas North America is blessed with diverse wildlife and abundant natural resources, including more than 4,000 native bee species, honeybees that are essential to our nation's agriculture, and many other insect pollinators. And whereas bees are most important efficient pollinators, which are essential to the food supply for the people, for wildlife, and whereas 1/3 of all food we eat is a direct result of animal pollinators, and wildlife also rely on the natural food chains that cannot function without pollination. And whereas insect pollinators are themselves important food sources for other wildlife, including the countless birds, mammals, reptiles, and amphibians that eat the protein and fat-rich eggs, larvae, or adult forms of insect pollinators, or feed them to their young. And whereas 1/3 of our nation's wildlife species are at risk of extinction in coming decades, including bees and pollinators like the rusty-patched bumblebee that recently became the first bee species in the continental U.S. to be added to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's endangered species list. And whereas cities and towns and counties play a critical role in helping save bees and pollinators by creating pollinator habitat at parks, municipal buildings, roadsides, and throughout the community where our citizens live, work, learn, play, and worship. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jeff Longwell, the mayor of the city of Wichita, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim August 17, 2019 as Save the Bees Day, and call upon citizens and other city officials across our great nation to take a stand with me so that our nation's bees and wildlife will once again flourish across the continent. And you can have this and the podium.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mayor, and thank you, Wichita City Council, for approving our Bee-Sponsible request to call this Saturday, August 17th, Save the Bees Day here in Wichita. We are so excited. This is our second event, and it highlights just the population of insects, their decline, and really helps bring about awareness to what we can do as a community to help with the declining bee population. I'm with Barkman Honey, and Bee-Sponsible is brought to us by Barkman Honey. It's a nearly 60-year Kansas honey company, and year over year, we realize honeybee losses. We see that our native bee species in particular are increasingly threatened. For example, over a quarter of our native bumblebees are at risk of extinction. Insects overall are declining at rapid rates. So thank you very much for declaring August 17th as Save the Bees Day. At Bee-Sponsible, which we started a few years back, we talk about all sorts of bees. We talk about their importance, how us as humans are connected to bees, how we really rely on each other for food supply. We share the threats that bees face and how each one of us can do something to pitch in and make a difference. So we'd love to talk more about bees, Bee-Sponsible, this Saturday, August 17th at Old Town Farmers Market during regular market hours. That's 7 to noon. We'll have educational information, kids' activities, giveaways, local honey to try, all sorts of fun stuff. So come out, support your local businesses, visit the Bee-Sponsible booth, and celebrate Save the Bees Day. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, and I think I've heard before if you ingest local honey, it can help against some allergies. Is that true?
That's what they say.
All right. All right. Well, we appreciate you being here. Madam Clerk, you want to call the next item, please?
David Wilburn, pool, stagnant water, mosquitoes, a health hazard.
Is David Wilburn?
That's the pictures I wanted to hand out first, so you can see the problem yourselves.
If you just give them to, yeah, that's fine. We can hand those out for you.
Thanks, sir.
This pool is 6 doors down from my house. It has been in this condition for approximately the last 10 years. It was brought to my attention about 5 years ago, and I've been trying to do a central inspection, MABC, to get something done. And apparently there's a lack of code on this. There is no code dealing with a stagnant pool like this, which is just full of mosquitoes. The 2 pictures are of my son's arm. He mowed the lawn last week and got 16 bites in 1 hour. And I had sprayed him down with bug spray before he went out to mow. So it is a real problem in the neighborhood. I don't know what to do about it. I'd like for you to, maybe you could put some pressure on MABC and come up with a new code to address the issue. They've had plenty of time to do something, and they're not doing anything.
Have you reached out to your council person yet?
I was working with Janet before she hit her term limit, and I haven't been able to get a hold of you. Apparently, my emails won't go through the city system.
Let's make
So-
sure that we,
Yeah, why don't you start
I
there?
don't think Janet had enough weight. I think it takes all of you council members to put some pressure on them.
Okay. Why don't you start working with Cindy, and then we'll go from there.
All right? Thank you.
Was there anything else?
Nope.
Thanks. Madam Clerk, next item.
Consent agenda items 1 through 18.
Any items need to be pulled for discussion or clarification? Seeing none, I move we approve consent agenda items 1 through 18.
Second?
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Report of Board of Bids and Contracts dated August 12, 2019.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Hannah Lang, Department of Finance. Today I present to you the formal bid report from the August 12th Board of Bids. First engineering bid we have is 2019 sanitary sewer reconstruction phase 5. Recommendation is to defer to August 19th Board of Bids. Next engineering bid is water distribution system to serve Pike Addition phase 1A. Recommendation is Meese Construction for $103,416. First purchasing bid, salt storage building. Recommendation is to defer to August 19th. Stormwater pump maintenance. Recommendation is to defer to August 19th. TV inspection system for retrofit existing system. Recommendation is to defer to August 19th. Warthog double action cleaning nozzles and service kits. Recommendation is key equipment for $59,706.10. Milliken carpet tiles for City Hall. Recommendation is Harry Street carpet for $79,564. That is all the bids. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions on the bids? Seeing none, I move that we award the bids as presented.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Cast your vote.
Councilmember Claycomb, would you cast your vote, please?
She's not at the bid.
Oh, she's absent, sorry.
She can voice it. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk, next item.
2020 Annual Operating Budget and 2019-2028 Capital Improvement Program.
Morning, Mayor and members of the council. Mayor, hopefully you can maintain your composure as we go through this final budget review. This is the final hearing on the operating budget for 2020 and 2021, and also the approval of the 10-year capital improvement program. Just a reminder of the major areas of focus for this budget: alignment with the mission and vision of the city, as approved by the council previously. Emphasized engagement with the community as we develop the budget recommendations, striving for service excellence, and also trying to maintain financial stability, especially in the face of what could be some challenging financial conditions in the future. Just a reminder again that between the budget simulator and social media town hall, we had over 2,100 people that actually submitted comments to us. In the social media town hall, we had an additional 80,000 views of our budget issues that were out there during that event. Here is a summary for you of the operating budget. On the left-hand side are the revenues that support the operating budget, and on the right-hand side are expenditures for the entire budget. As I've highlighted before, salaries and benefits are the number one category in terms of funding for the entire budget. Here is a breakdown of the revenue and expenditure supporting the capital improvement program. Again, utilities represent the most significant revenue source, as well as expenditure purpose in the capital improvement program. Arterials also heavily emphasized in the CIP. There are a couple of significant themes from this budget. One is to enhance our conditions for living well in the community. Did that in a number of ways, integrating both the capital improvement program with the the capital improvement program with the operating budget. We have a number of improvements in the capital improvement program for the branch libraries, and we're also then maintaining our hours of operation in all of the branches to be able to take advantage of a new focus for those facilities. Also implementing the aquatics master plan, both from a capital standpoint as well as from an operating budget standpoint, extending the hours of service to our residents starting next year in both splash pads as well as swimming pools. And then continued emphasis on funding cultural services in the community, doing so with a set-aside of 1.5% in the capital improvement program for public art, as well as new operating plans for Cowtown and for city arts. Heavy emphasis on public safety in our operating budget and our CIP. This operating budget, as amended by the council last week, or at least your intent to amend, will provide funding for the phase 1 and phase 2 of the police staffing study. Also retains 7 positions that were previously grant funded and will now be general fund funded. Provides improvements at our 4 police substations and 3 of our existing fire stations, and then introduces a pilot project for the integrated care team, which we've discussed in the past. Drill down just a little deeper on the police staffing study, the second phase. As presented to you as an option last week, we would start in 2019 with a class of 10 officers, starting probably at the end of the year, and then all of the equipment necessary to implement phase 2 would be purchased in 2019. We would do that through a decrease in the amount of money that we'd be transferring into our tort liability or insurance fund. Then in 2020, we would add an additional 16 positions, and then we'd be able to do that by making a shift in our street maintenance expenditures from the operating budget to the capital improvement program. No change in the dollar amount, just the funding source. And that's summarized here in this table. A reminder in terms of roadway maintenance, again, a high priority of the council and of the community. Just in this past year, as we've been working through the capital improvement program, we placed a heavier emphasis on roadway maintenance. And you can see the blue line below is what you adopted last year for the capital improvement program. And what we're proposing this year is in the red line. So again, significant increase in roadway maintenance expenditures over a 10-year period, over $130 million. And we're doing all of that with a stable mill levy rate, which is possible because of growth in our tax base, as well as good revenues in some of our other funding sources. We've also been able to maintain and actually build on our general fund reserves. If you remember, we were at a low level as we entered into the recession. The recession did not allow us to be able to address our reserve issues and some of the concerns expressed by the bond rating agencies at the time. However, we have been able to address that really since starting in 2013, and now we're in a comfortable position in terms of our reserve position in the general fund. Also, mindful of council's benchmarks for the issuance of debt, we are keeping our debt at a reasonable level below benchmark through the entire 10 years of the capital improvement program. A reminder, I did mention that many folks, many economists nationally are talking about potential for a downturn in our business cycle, either in 2020, possibly 2021. We have tried to position the city in a way that we will not be significantly impacted if that were to occur. Obviously, we would still have to make changes in expenditures, but we've tried to take several actions that make us more sustainable, and that's reflected on this page. We've done a lot in process improvement. Those are not one-time savings, but savings that will stay with us as we go forward. looking at trying to keep our emphasis and focus on our top priorities and reducing or eliminating services that do not line up with your priorities. Working hard in terms of greater use of technology and innovation in the organization, and then having adequate reserves so that if we do get in a downturn, that we have some funds that can be tapped for one-time expenditures that are part of our operating budget. So with that, I'm prepared to recommend the approval of the 2020 proposed budget, including the police staffing option that was considered by the council last week. Also recommend the adoption of the 10-year capital improvement program, the approval of the WSU mill levy, and authorize us to take the necessary steps to implement this budget. Mayor, with that, I'd be glad to take any questions.
Any questions at this point? We're still giving them pause. We want you on the hot seat. No, it doesn't look like there's any questions.
Be glad to come back.
Don't leave the room.
I won't. Thank you.
We'll go out to the public. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item?
Mayor, Council, Manager, Dale Goter, 2625 West Cornelison, is Claycombs District. I'm here to make one more desperate attempt to help save our public golf system. The ad hoc committee I've worked with the past year has made every effort to convince you, the staff, and the public that our municipal golf system is in trouble. Unless fundamental changes are made in the operational model, the system will continue to nosedive and we'll lose more public golf courses. Our efforts have been met with great resistance from the staff and little support from you, the public officials. We published an op-ed piece in the Eagle that suggested some rational changes, but we got no response. We have been met not only with resistance, but with derision, disrespect, and outright animosity. In his presentation last week, the manager said the budget process tried to engage the community. We don't feel we're part of that community or that process. And please understand, this isn't just 5 dissidents as we were labeled in the recent letter to the editor. This is a broad-based opinion held by a lot of informed and influential citizens, golfers, and non-golfers alike. Here's the hard truth. Public golf is the bastard child of the recreational portfolio. As an enterprise fund, it gets virtually no help from the city. The capital improvement program you approved today has millions of dollars for aquatics, tennis facilities, athletics courts, walking paths, and not one nickel for the bastard child. All of those items are important, and we support every dollar in that CIP. All of those items are important quality of life enhancements that make our city great. We just don't understand why golf gets sent to the corner and ignored. Unlike all those other recreational activities, public golf is required to pay administrative fees for police and fire protection. There's nothing more than a raid on golf revenue to benefit the general fund. Golf rounds are down. We don't dispute that. But public golf is still one of the community's most treasured activities. 160,000 rounds of golf in the past year is still a high level of activity that shouldn't be ignored. Senior citizens are the overwhelming majority of season pass holders, and they're going to be the biggest victims of this system failure. The bastard child isn't getting much love from his caretakers. All the comments from staff and council last week were pretty negative, and it only gets worse. Yesterday, the Park Board voted to recommend the Golf Advisory Committee be dissolved, an action that helps protect the staff and administration from any challenges from the public. Interestingly enough, Park Board member Hoyt Hillman had appointed me to that committee last month. When he called me to tell me, I told him, "You have just killed the Golf Advisory Committee. They will never meet again." That prophecy didn't take long to play out. All we're asking is that you change the status quo. You can't spend $250,000 a year on top-heavy oversight, ignoring the internal talent and resources that are repressed by the current administration. Bring in a qualified expert like the National Golf Foundation to help get things right. Last week, the manager noted that Austin, Texas, is in the same situation as Wichita. He said the exact same situation. That's largely true with one notable exception. Austin has 5 courses, one of which is a historic track under financial stress, kind of like Clapp Park. But the one exception is that Austin hired the National Golf Foundation to guide it through its difficulties. That's prominently displayed on the Austin Golf webpage, and it'd be worth your time to take a look at it. But we're too proud, too stubborn, too cheap to follow that example. Instead, we're going to ride this lame horse until it collapses under the weight of mismanagement and incompetence. Please reconsider your treatment of this bastard child. Welcome it back into the family, along with aquatics, tennis, and all the other recreational activities in the city. Remember, if we can't change the game, we have to change the players. That said, I have one other point to raise. Mayor, last week you addressed a misconception in my remarks. Your exact quote was, "One other misconception I think is worth clearing up. I don't believe we ever put McDonald Golf Course up for sale. I think we were just responding to someone that made an offer." The manager's response was, "Right," and then we opened it up to proposals, received one, didn't find that acceptable, so we moved forward. And the mayor said it wasn't our intent to put McDonald Golf Course up for sale, it just came to us. And the manager said we weren't proactive in promoting it at all. That comment is patently false. If you look at the title page of the request for proposal, it says sale of McDonald Park. So Mayor, how can you say that your exact quote was, "We never put it up for sale"? You made it sound like the developer put it up for sale. The developer doesn't own the course. You own the course.
Dale, you've used your 5 minutes.
Thank you.
So I will tell you again, we did not put McDonald up for sale. That is a legal requirement. Once we want to respond to anyone that offers money for a golf course, we then have to legally put out an RFP that looks like we put it up for sale. And manager, you want to clear any of that up?
Mayor, you're accurate in that we received a proposal. We could not take that proposal on its face. We had to go out for proposals to see if anyone else was interested in the purchase of that facility, and that's the process that we follow, and that follows council policy.
So it doesn't help to spin a false narrative, Dale.
Here's a false narrative, Mayor. Here's the title page of the request for proposal. It says sale of McDonald Park. Jeff Blueball, you're a realtor. You put a sale in front for sale sign in front of the house. Does that mean it's for sale or that it's not for sale?
It was an unsolicited proposal that started that.
But nonetheless, Mayor, here is the physical evidence that you put it up
My
for sale.
Lord, Dale. All right, thank you.
And I would like to note also, I wish a member of the council, Brandon, this is in your district.
Dale,
You think that's true, that the mayor did not put it up for sale?
So the mayor is accurate. We were approached by a developer who was interested in purchasing the golf course, and through city policy, there was an RFP release so that it wouldn't just be one individual. Those applications were reviewed and rejected.
So the public
Councilmember
sees
Clinton,
this.
and did you have a question?
I had a question for the manager, so I'll wait until this is over with and ask.
All right, thanks, Dale.
Mr. Manager, is it accurate that the Park Board yesterday voted to dissolve the Golf Advisory Committee?
As I understand it, and I just found out at the end of the day, they are preparing a recommendation for the council to consider disbanding the golf, or I shouldn't say disbanding, reorganizing the Golf Advisory Committee and having them meet on a as-needed basis. That's what I believe the recommendation is.
Okay.
Councilmember Fry was there.
Because we created that committee, and so they don't have the authority to
No, they
dissolve that committee.
They recognize that, so it'll come back to you as a recommendation.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they discussed that, and that's why it's a recommendation.
All right.
All right, thank you. Any other speakers?
Good morning. My name is Christopher Parashow, 311 South Exposition Street, Wichita, Kansas. Last week, as the city manager had pointed out, you had made a recommendation to make some changes to the budget. I have no problem with the recommendation that was made. My issue is with the fact that the recommendation was not detailed in the agenda, and the recommendation was made after the public comment phase of last week's agenda. So if there was anybody in the audience last week who might have had some comment about what was being proposed, they have to wait till this week to make any comments about it. In the interest of transparency and communication, I would think that that kind of a proposal should be listed in the agenda so that people can be aware that it's going to be made. You had a presentation prepared for it, so I don't understand why it couldn't have been itemized as part of the agenda and before the public comment phase, so that if there was any questions, concerns, thoughts, that the people could have come in, or the people who were here could have presented their issues or comments, or even just given their support. So it's more of a process issue than anything else. I would like to see that be done differently in the future. Thank you.
So do you have any problem with hiring more officers?
Not at all.
So this is your opportunity to address that.
I understand that. I'm
All
just
right.
saying that the process last week could have been a little better.
Any other speakers? Councilmember Claycomb?
Mr. Mayor, I want to continue to remind people that they can call or email council members anytime. So again, this is one opportunity. City council is one opportunity to make these comments, but those can certainly be emailed or voiced to us in other ways. So just remind people of that. Thank you.
Yeah, great reminder, Councilmember Claycomb, and we encourage people to reach us through a wide variety of different mediums, and we've done social town halls and neighborhood breakfasts, district advisory board meetings. We're open to emails and phone calls, and we hope there's never a shortage of ways for the public to contact us, and they don't have to wait for a council meeting. But some obviously feel they do need to wait for a council meeting. Any other speakers? No other speakers? We will return the discussion to the bench. Councilmember Claycomb.
I just want to make a comment about golf. I do know that there are some concerns in a small group of people about this, and I think I just want to make sure that people understand that we are not abandoning golf. We still have 4 golf courses that we will work on making very as successful as they can be, and the manager and I have talked about looking at continue to look at the operations of those 4 courses and how those might be improved in ways that we might move forward with that. So I don't want people to think that we're abandoning golf, because we're not. We have still have 4 great courses.
Thank you. Good point. And Councilmember Clendenin spent considerable time over the last year reaching out to the community on what they would like to see in their community down there. And I know you spent a lot of hours and a lot of input, but ultimately we're going to, I think, follow the direction of both the committee, the community, and the input that we've been receiving on what they would like to see in their neighborhood. So, Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to quickly address the public art funding, aesthetic design. You know, we've been working on this for several years now, and trying to get a dedicated funding stream for aesthetic design and public art. I think we're making progress. I believe we all want a beautiful city, because a beautiful city is inviting. That means we're open, we're inclusive, we're welcoming, and aesthetic design and public art gets us there. So I'm very happy with the progress we're making. I'm not sure that we're there yet with the formula and being as easy and uncomplicated to understand as we could be, but I'm glad that we're making progress with this. Still work to be done, but this is a great first step.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think there is some concern, Mr. Manager, that the reality is all we're trying to do is codify what we've been doing in this community for, over a dozen years. But I think there's some concern that we are using maybe insufficient numbers as we try and codify that, making sure that we are getting everything in there that needs to have public art component. There's things that aren't in there today that will eventually show up. For instance, our police substations. And so there's still work to be done.
Mayor, members of council, we continue to work on this issue. Those who are advocating for a set aside for art or public art, we've had multiple meetings with them. I think Councilmember Fry is right. We're making progress, but I don't know that we're all agreeing on what the base level is today. I think the council has been clear that it wants to see funding that is consistent with what we've done in the past, or even a little bit more than what we've done in the past. We'll get you there. When you adopt the CIP, you are simply adopting this as a policy direction. If you remember, there's an ordinance that will actually come to you for consideration, and we'll have agreement with the methodology by the time the ordinance reaches you.
Good. Thank you. Good, and just want to also make it clear, we're not adding an additional art tax. We're just accumulating the money that we receive and allocating it, a portion of it for art. And the reality is that the way that we're calculating it, it would move potential CIP projects out maybe as few as 12 days in a 10-year span, and maybe as many as 30 days. So it's not a significant movement of projects, but I think it would be significant in addressing some concerns in the community. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had two things. One, in regard to CLAP, I definitely did not want to vote to close CLAP, but seeing the opportunity that it presents for that part of our city is great, and all the families that live around CLAP Golf Course that now can go over there and use it as a park as it develops is great. And there's been a lot of folks riding bikes through there and walking through there now, and just think what that'll look like when more amenities are there for the community. So I definitely am happy to see that, and that was the course my father-in-law played golf at, so I had to hear about that for a while, but I understand. But I do think that's going to be a great opportunity. And second, I am excited to see more funding for our law enforcement community. We definitely need to continue that, and as we get to more better community policing, we need those officers so they can get out and engage the community, and we've seen a lot of positivity come from that, and I'm excited to see more opportunities for that to grow.
Thank you. You're still invited to Christmas dinner, aren't you?
I hope so.
Good points made, and we appreciate it. And just want to share, too, what really started the conversations about potential funding police officers wasn't just the fact that we need to follow the study that WSU did a few years ago, but when we found out that we were moving as much money into the tort, I think we saw an opportunity to maybe not increase the tort as much and make sure we're funding our first responders. And so I think this is a good plan that will get us where we need to be. Councilmember Clendon.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Johnson, for your comments. Pardon me. I have received so many messages on people that are thanking me for allowing them to use CLAP Memorial Park. Just for you guys to know, it has been fun to see people out there riding their bikes, sending me pictures of using it. So many people, and it's been a little bit heartwarming. It's sad, obviously, that CLAP Golf Course is being closed, but we're not taking CLAP away from the community, and I just want to say we're not taking CLAP away from the community. It will not be a golf course, but I'm looking forward to an official master planning of that golf course. We had we had 10 community meetings with the community on what they would like to see, and they put together 3 kind of community master plans together, you might say, 3 scenarios that they'd like to see. I'm looking forward to, in this budget, paying for a master plan that will codify that and reassure people that we are not taking their green space away, because there are so many people that think we're going to do that, which is just not going to happen. So I want to thank the council for their commitment to this green space and to the master plan in this budget as well. I think people in the community are happy that everyone gets to use it now. If we're going to subsidize a park space, that everybody get to use it, since their tax money is being used to subsidize it. and everybody, regardless of income, is extremely happy that they get to use the space now. So it's been nice to get those, as well as the people that have emailed me upset that the course is closing. So thank you. I just wanted to share my appreciation to you all.
Good job in the way that you were encouraging community input. So, do we have the recommendation that we can post on the board? Is there a slide that shows that? So everyone, I can read it. That's all right. I don't think we do. It wasn't part of your presentation. All right, if everyone's ready, then I'm going to make a motion that we close the public hearing and adopt the 2020 proposed budget with the recommended adjustments and the second reading of the necessary budget ordinances, including those for the tax increment financing, known as TIF districts and the SMID district. Approve the amending of the 2019 Municipal Court Restricted Fund. 3, approve the use of local funds derived from property within the corporate limits for the Wichita State University Board of Trustees, the interlocal agreement between the city and the county. Authorize staff to take necessary steps to implement the budget, including budget adjustments, expenditure control levels, budget administration procedures, and to make any technical adjustments necessary to complete and submit the state certification forms, and adopt the 2019-2028 proposed capital improvement program.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Johnson says read it again. No. You can replay it when you get home. We have a motion and a second. Cast your vote. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk, next item.
Public hearing and request for a letter of intent to issue industrial revenue bonds, IH1 LLC.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Tim Goodpasture with the City's Office of Economic Development for the record. The item before you today is a request for a letter of intent to issue industrial revenue bonds from IH1 LLC. On December 5th, 2017, the City Council approved an industrial revenue bond issue for IH1 LLC for a speculative industrial building in southwest Wichita. That was a 100,000 square foot building that today is leased to Hyperpet, which has now been renamed Cosmic Pet. Hyperpet at the time was in an old, outdated building that did not suit their warehousing and distribution needs. They were considering relocating to Kansas City at the time because they could not find a building that suited their needs. And then this building came online and they leased the 100,000 square feet at that time. Cosmic Pet has since acquired some other companies that are based out of state and wants to consolidate those operations into Wichita and needs an additional facility to be able to do so. IH1 LLC is a partnership that is managed by local developer Jeff Lang, and they will be building the building and then leasing it to Cosmic Pet. This will be the third industrial building in the Iron Horse Manufacturing and Warehousing Project, which is located at the southwest corner of MacArthur and Seneca. The first building, the 100,000 square foot spec building, is leased to Cosmic Pet. There is a second 100,000 square foot spec building that is currently under construction, and IH1 LLC is requesting a letter of intent not to exceed $6.1 million, which includes approximately $5.5 million for real property improvements and an additional $600,000 for machinery and equipment for a new additional 100,000 square foot building. This aerial shows the Iron Horse Industrial Park. You can see MacArthur running along the top of the aerial, which is the north side of the property, and on the east side you can see Seneca Street. This is a site plan for Iron Horse Industrial Park, and you can see the building on the very south side in orange that says Cosmic Pet was the original 100,000 square foot spec building. To the west of it in green is the second 100,000 square foot spec building that is under construction, and the area outlined in red that is the orange color that says new would be the new 100,000 square foot building for Cosmic Pet. These are images of the first building that was built at Iron Horse that Cosmic Pet currently occupies, and all of the buildings at Iron Horse will share the same exterior facade. Cosmic Pet currently employs 50 and plans to add an additional 24 new employees at an average annual wage of $60,000 a year. The agenda report misstated the annual wages at $42,000. We have been working on a variety of scenarios with Cosmic Pet, and the final one that we landed on reflected annual wages of $60,000 a year for those 24 new jobs, which is reflected in the cost-benefit analysis conducted by Wichita State. Based on the capital investment in new jobs, the project qualifies for a 94% property tax abatement. The value of that 94% abatement, looking at $5.5 million invested in real property improvements, assuming those are appraised at 80%, since we rarely see a dollar-for-dollar increase in valuation through the Sedgwick County Appraiser's Office, is approximately $30,000 a year for the city and approximately $107,000 a year for all taxing jurisdictions. A cost-benefit analysis was completed by the Center for Economic Development and Business Research at Wichita State University, which showed an overall ratio of benefits to costs of 1.52 to 1 for the city, 1.30 to 1 for the city's general fund, and 1.56 to 1 for the city's debt service fund. Therefore, it is the staff's recommendation that the City Council close the public hearing, adopt the resolution of intent, and authorize the necessary signatures. Tim Blurton, who is the CEO of Cosmic Pet, Warren Van, who is the CFO of Cosmic Pet, are both here and can answer questions specific to the company, and Jeff Lang, who is the developer with IH1 LLC, is here as well. I'm also happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll go out to the public. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. Councilmember Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. Tim, one quick question for you. I've heard this again, that we are giving $6 million away to help this out. Can you explain what the IRB is and what we are actually doing?
Absolutely. Great question. So in terms of the money, $6.1 million, the city is not giving, nor is the city backing $6.1 million in debt for a private company. The company is actually going out and has negotiated with a bank whatever financing arrangement they can negotiate. Interest rates, amortization, repayment, that is all between them and their bank. The industrial revenue bonds are largely a paper transaction that allows for the city to provide a property tax abatement for the company and a sales tax exemption on construction materials. But it is not actual money that the city is loaning, and the city is not on the hook in any way, shape, or form for the $6.1 million.
All right, thank you.
So are there any other questions? I know Mr. Lang's here, so we could put him on the hot seat. Nobody wants to. I guess you're too nice. We'll turn this over to the Vice Mayor, who I know is very familiar with all of the stuff going on in South Wichita and West Wichita. So,
thank you, Mayor. I think this is a great example of how the city's been able to work with a developer and a company. Here a few years ago, we were looking at the possibility Hyperpet would leave Wichita. Now, not only left, they've developed a new site. Now they're doubling in size, hiring 24 new employees, over $60,000. I want to thank the folks from Cosmic Pet. I want to thank Jeff Lang for everything they've done, and I think it's a great opportunity, great for South Wichita, and it's great for Wichita altogether. So I'd like to take the recommended action to close the public hearing, adopt the resolution of intent, and authorize necessary signatures.
I will second that, and also appreciate those that are investing in our community because of our policy. This is how we grow. This is our opportunity to continue to grow and do the things we want to do without tax increases. And so we appreciate the investment in our community. And Councilmember Johnson, thank you for asking that question, because we've been sharing this information for a very long time, and it's still confusing to people. They see the headlines and they think that we're giving away $6 million, and all we're doing is providing the opportunity for an IRB, and it can be confusing. So I'm glad you asked that. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Amendments to Section 6.4.40 of the Code of the City of Wichita regarding exceptions to animals running at large.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Gentry Thiessen, and I am the Senior Management Analyst for the Department of Park and Recreation. I'm here to present the amendment to City Code on the exception to animals running at large. So this section of the City Code prohibits dogs from running at large or off-leash inside city limits. Currently, the Fire Department and Police Department use dogs off-leash for essential and beneficial functions, including tracking missing persons, detecting drugs, search and rescue, and detecting accelerants used in arson. Each dog goes through extensive training when they join the department and are paired with a trained handler, which becomes their permanent partner. Park and Recreation is proposing this amendment so that the law enforcement agencies may use these dogs without compromising the law, and so we may also lease a bird control dog. All of the activities that require a dog are work-related to support city operations. So the ordinance itself states, in addition to exceptions enumerated in 6.4.218, animals may be permitted to run at large by authority of any federal, state, or local law enforcement agency, or by authority of a department head of the City of Wichita for official purpose or use, so long as the animal is under control of a trained handler. Immediate impact would be made on the police, fire, and park departments, and as far as we are aware, there are no financial considerations to be made in light of amending this ordinance. So I'd like to thank Jan Jarman of the Law Department for the preparation of the ordinance and the amendment that is approved as to form. She's unable to be here, but Elizabeth Harlensky of the Law Department will be here to answer any legal questions. It is the recommendation that the City Council place the ordinance on first reading and authorize the necessary signatures. Thank you for your time, and I'll stand for questions.
Any questions of the speaker? See none, we'll go out to the public. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item?
Good morning, council. My name is Chris Stoneberger. I didn't have anything prepared. Didn't have anything written or prepared. This has kind of come to my attention this morning. I'm new to the city of Wichita, and first I'd like to take a second and tell you guys, I've lived in various cities throughout Kansas. I just moved from the Kansas City area, and I've never felt so welcomed before in my life. The city of Wichita has really grasped us. And the contacts that I've made and people I've talked with so far have been fantastic. Wichita kind of has a tight-knit community. I keep telling everybody, you have your own flag for heaven's sakes. I mean, that's pretty cool. So we've moved down here. My wife is from here. We're here to try and become a part of your community and do something good. The service that I offer is Canada Goose Control. I did this in Kansas City, where I serviced over 80-plus properties through an outfit called Geese Police. I have now decided to start my own outfit here in Wichita and become a part of your community. I just wanted to speak and maybe give a little insight to the bird control for this amendment. What we do is we use highly trained Border Collie dogs to humanely control Canada geese. They are a nuisance, they are a problem, and our goal is not for our dogs to become the nuisance in town running at large. Our goal is to use them to work and get rid of your nuisance, which is Canada geese. They're disgusting. They leave droppings everywhere. They carry more bacteria in one goose. One goose's bacteria is more than 25 cows. So that tells you just how disgusting these animals are. So I wanted to bring to light to you the fact that when we are out working a property, our dogs are highly trained. Our dogs went through months and months of training. Our dogs all qualify for the open class of the trial herding world, and if anyone knows anything about that, that's the highest class you can become. I also went through training through Geese Police in Kansas City, and I finished up my training with my dog in Virginia, just outside Washington, D.C. My dog came from a trainer who owns goosedogsforsale.com and Goose Rangers on the East Coast. So these aren't just pets. These aren't dogs that we just bring and kind of just let them run loose. It's not a release the hounds. Our dogs are all taught no harm, no touch. It's very humane. It's one of the only humane methods backed by PETA, the U.S. Wildlife and Fisheries, and the USDA. So this is a really, really, really cool, important thing that we could bring to your city. And with the amendment saying that, I could be able to work my dogs, I would love to do some work for the city of Wichita. I would love to do work all over this place. We've already signed with Wichita State. They want to pursue future work with us. So this could be a very important and very good thing for Wichita. But the fact that I need to be able to work my dog, our dogs aren't We don't play fetch, we don't play ball, they're not pets. We want them to focus on their work because they have a job to do. They're trained, we're trained. Just a little bit about what we do. I appreciate your time, and if you guys have any questions, I'm free to that too.
Thank you. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I did have one question for you. So this exception is more focused on law enforcement, public safety. Are you in favor of an exception for like a professional company like you're talking about?
Yes, both, actually. I think the amendment's a great thing. I think it could be fantastic for myself. I mean, we do this full-time. This is what I do full-time. This is my full-time job. This is how I feed my 5-year-old daughter. So the fact that I could not be allowed to do my job and not be able to put food on my table because of a leash law would be kind of petty, I think. So I'm here to support this, and hopefully the amendment will allow me to do my job as well and help you guys in your city.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Seeing no other speakers, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. Robert, will this change in our ordinance allow people like Wichita State to hire outside companies like the gentleman just described, or would that not be allowed? Are we going to have to tweak the ordinance again?
The specific, Beth's here too, let Beth speak to this as well, but the specific ordinance change allows an animal under the control of a trained handler. I'll see if Beth has anything to add to that, but I believe that would allow for that.
So how do we prove they're a trained handler? Is there a certification process?
Good morning. No, the ordinance does not put a standard on trained handler, but in answer to your question, it would allow WSU. They could get it. There's also the added layer of authority of a department head of the city of Wichita, and they could get approval from a department head working in conjunction with the city of Wichita to allow that.
So there's always exceptions allowed then, is what I'm hearing.
Correct.
There's just a process for those exceptions, and someone's reviewing that. So what he just described, the gentleman just described, would be allowed under this ordinance change.
It could be following those that process, yes.
All right. Any other questions? So we appreciate you choosing Wichita, and we think we're a great community too. We continue to attract new people all the time. So we are a good place to raise a family. And I think this will work for you at this point, is what I'm hearing. So understanding that, if there's no other questions, I would move that we take the staff recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
DER 2017-3, Delano Neighborhood Plan.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council. Scott Knable with the planning staff for the record. The item before you today is consideration of adoption of the Delano Neighborhood Plan, which includes as an appendix the Ballpark Village Master Plan as an amendment to the comprehensive plan. The Delano Plan was originally adopted in 2001, and after over 15 years of implementing its recommendations, the neighborhood associations, Delano United, Delano Neighborhood Association, approached the city of Wichita asking that we take a look at the existing plan and consider adopting amendments that would update it. That process began in 2017 and ultimately made its way to the City Council and County Commission in 2018, and then was deferred with some discussion regarding the Ballpark Village Master Plan, which was a recommendation of the originally presented Delano Neighborhood Plan, but really did not have any specifics. It basically just said we should do a Ballpark Village Master Plan. On November 13th, the City Council directed that Ballpark Village Master Plan be developed and be included within the Delano Plan. And so the City of Wichita partnered with the Greater Wichita Partnership to work with Goody Clancy, the developers of the Project Downtown Master Plan, to undertake a Ballpark Village Master Plan in conjunction with the community and stakeholders. and and what you have before you today includes that Ballpark Village Master Plan. That said, I'll go through the Delano plan as well as the Ballpark Village Master Plan just to outline the things that are contained within it. You can see the vision statement here about Delano being a vibrant, historic, pedestrian-oriented urban district that offers diverse shopping, dining, entertainment. Those are things that really happen already today, and this vision really foresees that all will become larger, better, and a greater impact to the community. There's 11 recommendations contained in the plan, grouped into short, medium, long-term implementation periods. The overall implementation period is 15 years. Each of those categories would be a 5-year period of that 15-year period. The short-term recommendations are the Ballpark Village Master Plan, which of course is included within this plan, and so that piece, or the very first recommendation, is being implemented as we speak. The McLean Boulevard redesign, also something that is well underway and will be completed shortly after the plan is adopted, would provide for a 2-lane roadway between Douglas and Maple, a very pedestrian-oriented street that would support the development of the Ballpark Village. The River Plaza is something along the banks of the Arkansas River between Douglas and Maple that would also support that development of that Ballpark Village. That process would be initiated, and the design of that would occur in a short term. The multi-use path in Delano between McLean Boulevard and Seneca also is currently under design with the construction likely to be scheduled around 2021 within that first 5-year term. Parking strategy is something that like many of the plans that we do, had significant conversation. The city is in the process of developing a parking strategy for the downtown and the Delano and other areas, and that will be completed within a very short period of time after this plan is adopted. There's a future land use recommendation to do a future land use study for Delano. The existing land use plan for Delano really doesn't recognize some of the different pockets of different development character within the neighborhood and treats most of the neighborhood the same way. The neighborhood is really, I think, too large, and the committee that worked on the plan thought so as well. And so one of the implementation items will be to update the Delano Neighborhood Design Guidelines and the Delano Zoning Overlay that implements those. Some of the midterm recommendations are the West Douglas streetscape, as I'm sure many of you are aware, and it's photoed here. One of the primary implementation activities of the 2001 Delano plan was to do a Douglas streetscape project from McLean to Seneca, which has been hugely successful in its impact. This plan recommends, and the CIP that you just adopted includes funding to extend that streetscape from Seneca to Vine, as well as to do streetscape improvements from Vine to Meridian within the neighborhood. Neighborhood markers are an identified need in the neighborhood. The neighborhood markers that exist in Delano now are the downtown wayfinding signage system, which I'm sure many of you are aware is also in need of update. And so this plan recommends that Delano would have its own set of neighborhood markers that were different than downtown, recognizing that Delano is a different district, and this would then direct people from Kellogg and other major roadways into and around the Delano neighborhood and the various destinations. The plan recommends improving the housing conditions in Delano. Like many of our older neighborhoods, there's a number of properties that have fallen into disrepair, and code enforcement and other approaches to improving those housing conditions is recommended. The pedestrian bridge to connect the west bank of the river with the east bank of the river and connect the Ballpark Village, Delano, and the East Bank area of Century 2 and other developments is a midterm recommendation of this plan. And then the long-term recommendation of this plan is to focus a development effort along the Hanley Street corridor that would be a new north-south development connection. Primarily, the primary function of which would be to provide another point of pedestrian connection to the riverfront. As McLean Boulevard was reconstructed, it did not provide for a pedestrian crossing between Seneca and Douglas, excuse me, 2nd Street. And so there's a long stretch of the riverfront with a lot of amenities, museum, Keeper of the Plains, other activities that really don't have the kind of direct pedestrian connection that they probably should have. And so the long-term recommendation is to work on a project that would do that. As I mentioned, the Ballpark Village Master Plan is also a component, an appendix of this plan. It is intended to create a signature destination on Wichita's riverfront, which would be an economic stimulus and really celebrate and enhance the unique sense of place that the Arkansas River provides for Wichita, something that you really don't see in a lot of communities. This is the plan area outlined in red. The area outlined in orange is the city-owned property within that area, and there's a planned unit development that I'll talk about next that's proposed for that. The areas in yellow are private land contained within that area that have some redevelopment potential, and the plan provides guidance for how those areas, both public and privately owned, would be redeveloped in the future. You can see the development proposals that have been discussed. The stadium itself, of course, is the predominant development, which is currently under construction, including its museum. There's a number of commercial development sites that the city has entered into a development agreement to provide for development immediately adjacent to the stadium, and then there's been discussion and development proposals for the Metropolitan Baptist Church property north of the site, which this Ballpark Village Master Plan provides guidance for. You see the development would be primarily retail, and commercial, and office, although there are proposals that there and likely would be some residential component north of the stadium. The plan recommends a parking strategy that would focus on both on-site parking for the stadium as well as off-site parking in areas where there are existing parking resources that would be shared and provide stadium parking and Ballpark Village parking in those shared areas. And then there are some recommendations about how some newly developed parking areas north or perhaps west or perhaps south, depending upon how the market decides, would be developed in conjunction with this Ballpark Village. One of the discussion items that we had with the community regarding this plan was preservation of the views of the Arkansas River from McLean Boulevard. And so you can see on this plan there are recommendations that there be development on the east side of the newly reconstructed McLean, but that those development sites would be limited between Texas and Maple, that the area but north of Texas would have no development, would be public open space, and then the developments between Texas and Maple would strive to provide continued views even from McLean within that area. And then the plan also suggests that there be a preservation of some view corridors from the Arkansas River to the Ballpark Village, as well as from the Delano Clock Tower to the Delano entrance at the stadium. The plan focuses on creating a very pedestrian-oriented development that would focus on walkable connections in and throughout the neighborhood, and the primary approach that the plan recommends in doing that is creating these primary active edges of the buildings where the buildings themselves are oriented to the street or built to the street line, have open and inviting facades with windows and doors to where the activities within the buildings, the activity on the street really commingle with one another. It also has a major recommendation is to do a very similar type approach along the riverfront edge, where the buildings that are developed between McLean Boulevard and the Arkansas River itself really would have active edges on both sides, such that people who were using the buildings would have a direct activity or relationship to the river to the east of those buildings. The plan itself was recommended to you by the Delano Plan Advisory Committee that you appointed. It was also recommended by the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, the District Advisory Boards for District 4 and District 6, and also has received support from presentations that were presented to the Downtown Wichita Board, Delano United, the Delano Neighborhood Association, the Transit Advisory Board, and the Wichita Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board. The recommendation is to the council that you adopt the Delano Neighborhood Plan 2019, including the Ballpark Village Master Plan as an amendment of the Wichita-Sedgwick County Comprehensive Plan. With that, I'll answer questions.
Any questions at this point? Seeing none, we'll go out to the audience. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item?
Mayor, since this came from the Planning Commission, you would need to waive your procedure.
So we would, what's the feeling of the council?
That's fine. I'm fine with waiving it.
So I move that we waive the procedure and allow public comment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Cast your vote. Sorry, clerk, we surprised you there. But you're ready for any surprises. Motion passes unanimously. We will now take public comment.
Mayor, City Council, Jack Kellogg, proprietor of Hatman Jacks in Delano since 1980. Just to reiterate a couple of things. First of all, with the Ballpark Village Plan, pretty much I'm here to address the parking issue and the concerns that the merchants have in regard to having accessible parking. And I realize many plans have come forward. And as a member of the Delano Advisory Committee, I realized that it was kind of a moving target. I realize that parking is on its way and soon will be. I also realize that the Delano the Delano Ballpark Village Plan pretty much released ground that could have been extremely accessible parking for the merchants in the 500 and 600 block of West Douglas to the private development of the baseball team. I worked with Lou Schweikheimer at the baseball team, and I'm here really just to kind of reiterate an understanding that we have before City Council that he had made to us on March 19th before this council. I'd like to read what he said, and I'm not saying this in doubt or being not that I'm doubting Lou's word, I just want to reiterate it because it was a nice thing for him to come before council and read this statement. He said, and I quote, "We recognize the need for parking in the Delano businesses in the 500 and 600 blocks of West Douglas, and we are committed to providing 75 free and convenient parking spaces for that area." Now, I think that was said in good faith, and I've spoken to Lou since then, and he's reiterated that not only will there be 75, but there most likely will be more. Just a few words about the need and why the need is important for the stakeholders in Delano. On Delano, the CBD, Central Business District zoning, has been given and allowed certain businesses to lessen their parking restrictions, which is great. It's great for a restaurant to not have to be governed by those dictates. However, it has tightened up the parking needs. It has tightened up parking in Delano. My number two reason for being so concerned and to reiterate these comments as often as I can is that there is some word of parking meters in Delano, paid parking meters, that could potentially further restrict our ability to find parking spaces for our customers, for our employees, for the stakeholders that in all effect have been so integral in with the city to make Delano the destination that it is. I understand that the PUD, the planned unit development that you'll be voting on today, has no promises. I realize I realize who is in control of the situation, and you have given us lots of time to address this issue, but I just wanted to reiterate what it is that we've been promised so that you can be helpful to us in helping us to maintain what it is that we've built. Simply put, that is why I'm here. I also want to thank you for all your efforts and how hard you've worked to make this thing happen. It's been difficult, and you've had lots of facts coming fast and furious, and it's been difficult to approach. That is all I have to say, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Any questions? Don't appear to be any. Anyone else like to address the council?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, Mr. Manager, Jeff Fleur, President of Great Wichita Partnership and Downtown Wichita. Good morning to you. On behalf of the partnership, we would like to express our appreciation for being a funding partner with you and working with your team to derive the ballpark Village Master Plan, which is a component of the Delano Neighborhood Plan. The Ballpark Village Master Plan provides an important framework and design guidelines that will ensure a cohesive development of the West Bank as we move forward. It will serve as a blueprint in guiding new development so that it complements and further reinforces the density, the connectivity, the walkability, importantly, the architectural fabric of the Delano neighborhood, Delano neighborhood. As we can collectively continue to work forward on the Riverfront Legacy Master Plan, this plan will greatly contribute to a cohesive riverfront plan that encompasses both sides of the riverfront. These resulting plans will provide an overarching blueprint for development as we have seen through Project Downtown. That plan is now approaching $750 million worth of investment, both in completed and ongoing projects right now, and that plan was adopted in 2010. We would expect this would also yield such opportunities as we move forward. They will guide our community in developing a distinctive signature riverfront, as we've seen in other cities such as Chattanooga, Cincinnati, Louisville, Kentucky, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We have seen them do that well, and we believe we're on the right course to be able to do that as well. These plans will further economic development initiatives in specific areas such as talent retention and attraction. We've heard from a gentleman this morning who moved into our city. We believe that by continuing to develop a very distinctive signature riverfront, that story will continue and actually increase. Thank you for considering action today to further position the Delano Neighborhood Plan as a blueprint for Delano and the West Bank development. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Christopher Parashow again, 311 South Exposition Street. I live in Delano. I've been newly appointed as president of the Neighborhood Association. I am the treasurer of Delano United, and I'm here both personally and on behalf of those organizations to encourage the acceptance and adoption of this plan and the Ballpark Master Plan. It may not be perfect. There may be issues in it that not everyone likes, but I think it's the best compromise of all the different things and elements that are going into it. I know that going forward, there are going to be things like parking is going to get addressed eventually. It will take a little bit of time to work it out. But I think that as we work together as a community, we will be able to address the issues and concerns that still are out there about some of the smaller details. And hopefully going forward, this will make all of Delano even better than it already is. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Seeing no other speakers, we'll bring discussion back to the bench and kind of turn it over to the Vice Mayor and Councilmember Claycomb. I know that Delano's pretty much evenly divided between the two districts, but
I have a comment. I want to give my thanks to the Delano Advisory Committee. They really spent a lot of time on this, and I know there's several of them in attendance today, and I just wanted to make sure that you understood my appreciation for that, because it was a lot of work and a lot of time, so thank you very much.
And Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. And same thing here. Appreciate all the work you guys have done with us. I know we've had several meetings. I think we've had good communication. Appreciate everybody's input. I think it's helped us to move forward, so I'm ready to make the motion.
Sure.
Okay. I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to adopt the Delano Neighborhood Plan 2019 as an amendment to the Wichita-Sedgwick County Comprehensive Plan.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Cast your vote.
Excuse me, before the vote, could we add the language and place the ordinance on first reading to the motion? If you would accept that, let the record reflect that.
Accept the
Thank you.
amendment by legal counsel. All right, cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0, even with legal getting involved. Madam Clerk, next item.
PUD 2019-4, city zone change to planned unit development to create Ballpark Village, PUD number 61, from limited commercial, general commercial, and Delano overlay, and remove zoning from River northeast of North Sycamore and West Maple 300 South Sycamore.
Morning, Mayor, City Council, Scott Knable with planning staff again for the record. This item normally would have appeared on your consent agenda. However, the planned unit development itself contains language in it that recommends implementation of the Ballpark Village Master Plan, which of course was not adopted, and of course you consider your consent items before you consider your new business. So unless you have questions, the recommendation of the Planning Commission and the District Advisory Boards are that the planned unit development be approved, and there were no protests. The actual recommended action is that you adopt the findings of the Planning Commission, approve the requested zone change, and place the ordinance on first reading.
Wasn't part of the Ballpark Village included in the Delano Neighborhood Plan?
Yep. Pardon me, I didn't hear everything you asked.
Was the Ballpark Village included in part of the Delano Master Plan?
Yes.
That we just adopted?
Yes, that's correct.
This makes it
What he's saying, if we had
confusing.
kept it on consent, you would have been asked to adopt this on consent ahead of the consideration of the master plan.
Yeah, but what's different from this
Well, this
versus
is
what's in?
this is the planned unit development for the city-owned property that establishes the zoning to allow the development of the 5 private parcels surrounding the stadium.
Okay. Any other? Again, I don't know that because of the confusion today, what I'm going to move that we open it up for public comment.
Second.
A motion and a second to open it up for public comment. Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Is there anyone that would like to address the council on this item? And Jack just turned the other way. We will bring discussion back to the bench, and again, Vice Mayor, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to take the recommended action to adopt the findings of the MAPC, approve the requested zone change, and place the ordinance on the first reading with 4 of 7 votes.
Second. Way to make the attorney happy this time. We have a motion and a second. Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item.
Signature Flight Support Corporation Use and Lease Agreement.
Good morning, Mayor, members of the council. Victor White, Director of Airports. I'm here this morning to seek y'all's approval of a lease agreement, a use and lease agreement with Signature Flight Support at Eisenhower Airport. Oops, I messed that up. There we go. In December of 1975, Beechcraft Corporation leased facilities from the Airport Authority to conduct what's known as a fixed base operation at Eisenhower Airport. An FBO provides aircraft fueling, hangar storage, maintenance, and other customer services to the public. Over the time, their facilities expanded to more than 104,000 square feet of storage and maintenance hangars, customer service areas, shops, offices, a paint hangar, and then aircraft and vehicle parking areas as well. And then in July of 2008, the lease was assigned to Signature Flight Support when Beechcraft ceased the FBO business across the country. Signature is the world's largest network of FBOs with more than 200 locations. Beechcraft retained its service center portion of the property for the past 10 years under a sublease with Signature. Then in 2018, Textron Aviation, Beechcraft Cessna Hawker, moved its service center to the east side of Eisenhower and co-located it with existing Textron maintenance facilities. Subsequently, Signature agreed to reduce the size of its leasehold due to the departure of Textron. They had no need for those facilities. Then the Airport Authority's lease with Signature expired on April 30th of this year and was approved by the authority for a smaller leasehold on a month-to-month extension until a new lease could be executed on a long-term basis. Separately, Yingling Aviation was approved by the authority on July 16th of this year to lease the facilities that were removed from the Signature leasehold to augment Yingling's existing FBO and maintenance, repair, and overhaul services. Signature's new leasehold that'll be included in this lease includes customer service facilities, offices, community clear span hangars, T-hangar storage units, and an aircraft ramp and vehicle parking. The lease term will be for 30 years with 2 5-year mutually agreeable renewal options. It's a triple net lease, be effective July 1st, retroactive. Rental rates are based upon an appraisal that was done by Airport Business Solutions, which has done a number of our property appraisals over the last several years, and then subsequent negotiations with Signature management. Land rental rates, 41 cents a square foot. The customer service and offices rate will be $9 a square foot. The community hangars rate will be $3.75 a square foot. The T-hangar rate will be $1 a square foot. This adds up to a first-year Airport Authority revenue of $370,607, compares to what they were paying in the expired lease of approximately $200,000. There will be an annual rate escalation of 2% per year for the land and the facilities rent. Signature has agreed to invest within the first 12 months a minimum of $2 million in capital improvements, upgrades, replacements, renovations, or alterations of the leased facilities. I remind you that these hangars and offices and shops were some of the very first buildings built on the airport in the early 1950s when it was first built. Signature collects a pass-through fee from a fuel flowage fee from its general aviation customers they serve at a rate that specifies depending on the number of price per gallon. It's about $100,000 a year additional to us for that. This is the location in red of where they're located. Just to the south, to the right of the red box is where the facilities that you approved a few weeks ago with Yingling are. At the August 5th meeting of the Airport Advisory Board, they approved these financial and business terms of the use and lease agreement, and they recommend approval by the WAA, and therefore staff recommend that you approve the use and lease agreement. I'll be happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, if there's no other comments, we don't go out to the public on this one, do we? Oh, it's not planning, is it? Nope. I don't know we have much public left. We'll go out to everyone that's here. We're going to require everyone that's here to spend at least a minute at the podium. We'll open it up. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. If there's no other discussion, I move that we take staff recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item.
Councilmember appointments and comments.
Any appointments today? Any other comments? Councilmember Fry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to remind our public that this is the back-to-school week for many of our children, and take extra cautions around school buses and crosswalks. Be on the lookout for our most precious.
Absolutely, good reminder, and tonight is National Night Out. And I know I've been bombarded with a number of invites to work my way around the city. I'm gonna try and get from the far west side to the far east side with travel time and spend a little quality time in neighborhoods. It's gonna be a little challenging, but I know most of you will be out there in neighborhoods, and again, this is a great way for communities to get to know each other and really build a safer community, and that's the whole purpose of National Night Out. So I encourage you all to get out there and eat as much food as you possibly can. You can walk it off. If there's no other comments or appointments, I would move that we adjourn today's council meeting.
Second?
Mayor, we have an executive session.
Yeah, we have an exec today.
What do you need? 30 minutes?
15 minutes.
All right, we will suspend that adjournment, and we will be going into executive session just to spend some more quality time with our attorney. I move that the city council recess into executive session for 15 minutes to review an offer of settlement pursuant to KSA 75-4319 for legal consultation with city attorney, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship pending litigation and legal advice, and the session is required to protect attorney-client privilege and the public interest, and we will resume in these chambers no earlier than 10:50.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Let's move over to executive session.